Our story for today is Nadia's Hands by Karen English, illustrated by Jonathan Weiner. For Auntie Lila's wedding, the aunts decided that it was Nadia's turn to be a flower girl. Another cousin who had been a flower girl for Auntie Shayla's wedding told her, "Oh, I ate too many kebabs the night before and got sick and had to run to the bathroom right in the middle of walking down the aisle. Take my advice. Stay away from kebabs." "Be careful of frozen feet," another cousin added. She had also once been a flower girl. "I got stage fright just as I was about to walk down the aisle. My feet froze." So many things to remember. "You know what, Nadia?" Auntie Lila said. She lowered her voice and put her lips close to Nadia's ear. "I have a feeling you're going to be a very good flower girl." Nadia smiled, relieved. "I have a special surprise," Auntie Lila added. Nadia waited. "Auntie Amina's coming Saturday to put the mehndi on your hands." Auntie Lila's eyes danced and sparkled. "Just you wait." Nadia's smile made her face feel stiff. She didn't want the mehndi. It would make her hands orange. It wouldn't wash off, and she didn't want to go to school like that. On Monday, she was worried. But on Saturday, Nadia forgot her worry and woke up filled with anticipation. The aunties came one by one to help with wedding preparations. One brought the silky peach-colored shalvar and kayas Nadia would wear for her duties as flower girl. Another brought tiny gold earrings. Another came to curl Nadia's hair. Finally, in came Auntie Amina with her bag of mehndi. "Nadia, you go play while Auntie gets everything ready," Mommy told her. Auntie took from her bag the mixing bowl, the spatula, the thin wooden stick that looked like a sculptor's tool. She looked at Nadia. "I'll call you when it's ready, Nadia. It has to sit a while." At last, Auntie called Nadia to the kitchen. "Sit," she said. Nadia sat. "Hold out your hands." Nadia held out her hands, and Auntie Amina smeared the mehndi all over Nadia's palms. It was cold and pasty and kind of had a funny smell. Auntie said mysteriously with her wooden stick. She began to draw intricate designs that all of the aunties loved. While she did this delicate work, she sang softly to herself a song in Urdu, one that Nadia had heard many times before. Nadia did not budge. She almost didn't breathe. When Auntie was done, Mommy and the other aunts oohed and ahed at the swirls and the flowers and the stars on Nadia's hands. Then Auntie Amina drew a small gold ring out of her pocket and smiled a sly smile. "Look what I brought for you, for when your hands are ready." "Thank you," Nadia said, then quickly turned to Mommy. "How long do I have to sit here?" "For a while." "What's a while?" "Be patient, Nadia. Remember, sabar, patience." Nadia watched Mommy and the aunts walk out of the room to gaze at the wedding dress again. Nadia sat and sat. She sat watching the door, wishing someone would come back through it. She sat watching out the window, wishing there was something interesting to see. Finally, she sat watching the big clock over the stove. Tick, tick, tick. Uncle Omar came by with a flower delivery. He stopped in the kitchen where Nadia sat, palms up, very still. "Ah, mehndi," he said, and nodded approvingly. Uncle Abdul Rahim came next. He stopped by the kitchen to peek in the simmering pots, part of the wedding feast. "Ah, Nadia," he said, turning around. "You are so quiet and still, I didn't know you were here." "I'm showing everyone I have sabar," she said. That made Uncle laugh. He went over to her and gazed down at her upraised palms. "Oh, you got your hands done for the wedding. That's nice," he said. "Yes, Uncle," but she really didn't feel it was so nice. After a long while, Auntie Amina came and rinsed the mehndi off. Nadia looked down. She had amber hands with deep orange flowers and swirls and stars. Her hands did not look like her hands. They looked as if they belonged to someone else. She didn't want these hands that didn't look like her hands. Auntie slipped the ring on her finger, and Nadia rubbed its smooth, shiny surface with her thumb. Now it was time for the wedding. Nadia stood at the beginning of the long, red carpeted aisle. Everyone in the banquet hall looked back at her. She moved 1 foot. It wasn't frozen, and except for the flutter of butterflies in her stomach, she felt fine. She scooped up a handful of petals from the basket, remembering to toss them first on one side, then on the other. She saw a sea of eyes following her. Her feet stayed with the beat in her head. It wasn't so hard. She almost glided down the aisle as she let go of a shower of petals. But then the bright amber stone in her ring caught the glittering light, and Nadia noticed her hands for the first time. It seemed the swirls and tiny flowers and stars, the bright amber color, the deep orange fingertips. Her heart began to pound at the sight of those hands that she'd have to take to school on Monday, those hands that looked as if they belonged to someone else. She lost the rhythm then and brought her foot down so fast that she nearly stumbled. She felt her face grow hot and imagined it red as a pomegranate. She looked over at her cousins. One was giving her a flat, heavy-lidded look. A tiny smile was appearing on another one's lips, as if she were getting ready to laugh. Behind her, the third one leaned over and said something to the other two. Then all three turned to watch Nadia. Their eyes, 3 pairs of scrutinizing eyes, with smirks hidden behind their solemn expressions. Nadia's breath came fast. She plucked a few petals and cast them limply. Then her eyes met her grandma's. Grandma's eyes were filled with tears, but her mouth had a happy smile. She looked at Mommy and Daddy next. Their smiles were full of tenderness, and the aunts and the uncles' smiles were full of affection. Her feet found the rhythm, and she went on, 1 foot in front of the other, forgetting her hands as she dipped into the basket and sprinkled the flower petals first on one side, then on the other, all the way down to the end of the aisle. After the ceremony, one by one, the aunts came over to admire Nadia's hands and have her twirl around to show off her curls. The uncles came over to lift her chin and smile down at her. Grandma came over and lifted her hand, one hand, and then the other. "You know what, Nadia," she whispered, "when I look at your hands, it's as if I'm looking at my past and my future at the same time. Did you know that?" "No," Grandma Nadia said. What she knew was that her hands made Grandma happy, and Mommy and Daddy and the aunts and uncles, so they made her happy too. She thought about Monday at school. Maybe she could show her hands during sharing time. Linda Markaraki came with her grandmother's kimono once, and Rashid shared the kente cloth his mother had brought back from her trip to Africa. She would share her hands from Pakistan. Nadia looked down at her hands. She turned them this way and that. Her hands didn't look as if they belonged to someone else, she decided. They looked as if they belonged to her. The end.